We'll call the meeting in order for the Inland Wetlands Commission for January 8th, 2025. I'll ask Bruce to take the roll, please.
All right. Ned Stachin,
Here.
Richard Berlandi,
Here. Can they hear me or not?
David Fox,
Here.
Robert Eisner,
Here.
Neil Kelsey,
Present.
Mark Simpson,
Here.
Andre Simons, Jay Tulin, and George Santos. All right, Chair.
Okay. Like to wish everybody a happy new year. And to thank Robert Eisner for filling in for me on December 4th. And to state for the record that I did watch the video of the December 4th meeting. It was an interesting debate about, the different, how much work is regular maintenance and when do you get into a project. So I thought it was a good meeting. So I'd like to, well, do we want to appoint someone for, oh, we don't have any point
No,
for Andrea.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if he comes in, he comes in.
Okay. Yeah, I get that next thing here. So,
Okay, do we need to, I think we need to read the public hearing,
yeah,
the legal notice for the public hearing.
yes, sir.
Is Dave Fox read that?
Yes. Is Dave there?
Yep. Okay.
You see that? Or you want me to make it a little bigger? You got it?
Nope. I got it.
You got it. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that the Inland Wetlands Commission will hold an online public hearing on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 at 7 p.m. via an online web conference on the following application. City of Hartford application for regulated activity within wetlands and upland review area to disturb 0.11 acres of wetlands for grading and construction of roadways, sightlines, installation of utilities, trails and bridges, parking areas, sidewalks, boardwalks, dock supports, amenity and maintenance building, and other improvements associated with the redevelopment of the area around Batterson Park Pond at 95 Batterson Park Road. Interested persons are encouraged to participate in this online public hearing. The link to this meeting may be found on the Town of Farmington website. A copy of this proposal is also online at the website, or please call the Planning Department at Farmington Town Hall at 860-675-2325. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 20th day of December, 2024, by the Inland Wetlands Commission, Ned Stachin, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, I'll ask the applicant to make his updated presentation for 95 Batterson Park Road.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for giving us the opportunity to talk about this project. My name is Jesse Harris. I'm with BSC Group. We are the engineers and landscape architects working on this project on behalf of the city of Hartford, as well as CSG as their owner's representative for the project. Next slide. Just a little bit of context. We're talking about Batterson Park, located on the eastern border of Farmington and New Britain. It's about 266 acres, of which 155 acres is Batterson Park Pond. That gives approximately 88% of the land area in pond of area of the park lies within the Farmington town boundary. As many of you probably recall, that just historic park use over the years, utilizing the pond for various water activities, beach activities, and small support facilities that had been there for many, many years. Unfortunately, the park closed to public use in 2015 due to budget shortfalls with the city of Hartford to maintain this remote property, and since they had to close it for safety reasons, BSC Group and CSG have been involved with the city of Hartford on this property since early 2023 with a master planning effort that we prepared to get a better sense of what could happen here. And part of that, we came before this commission to get approval for existing buildings to be demolished back in 2023. That has since occurred, and we're kind of starting with a fresh, clean slate out there. Next slide. Here's just some photos of the existing conditions. These were taken in early June of last year. The site has just continued to kind of overgrown. Not much has happened out there. Since we took these pictures, the city did mobilize and mowed a significant portion of the site, just again, kind of in anticipation of us moving forward with these improvements that you'll hear about tonight. Next slide. Here's an aerial photograph of kind of the old beach area where Bruce's cursor is. And just to the kind of upper left was the old bathhouse and some other support buildings that were demolished last year. You can see the kind of the remnants of the driveway entering from the upper right and coming into kind of that circular driveway with a few parking spaces. And then as you kind of move to the south, which is to the lower left of the photograph, just the open meadows and some remnant paved court spaces that remain today. Next slide. This is a ground view of what that looks like today. The beach, you can kind of see sand kind of poking through the vegetation in the upper left side of the photograph, and then the views to the south to the meadow. Next slide. This is an aerial view, kind of just spinning around, looking at the south half of the site. You can see the couple remnants of the paved courts. There's the meandering paved walkway that runs along and adjacent to the edge of the pond. That seasonally is flooded from time to time. If you've gone out there any time in recent history, people have kind of deployed boards and logs and stuff to kind of traverse those wet areas on a regular basis. And at the very far kind of south of this picture, there's another paved old basketball court, and then the trail kind of loops around back to the right side and through the trees along that edge. Next slide. And this is, kind of a view from kind of that very southern point, looking back north up towards where the old beach and bathhouse was. I'll hand it over to Ethan Sneesby, our wetland scientist. He'll talk about the wetland resources that were identified on the site and other kind of function and values of those resources.
Happy to take over. Yeah, so my name is Ethan Seasby, soil scientist with BSC Group. The wetlands on site can essentially be broken down into about 6 groups. Those are forested wetlands without watercourses, emergent wetlands without watercourses, forested wetlands with intermittent watercourses, then forested wetlands with perennial watercourses, emergent wetlands with perennial watercourses, and then lastly, one vernal pool, or very likely vernal pool, yet to be fully confirmed, but highly convincing. The wetlands with the forested wetlands without watercourses are W7. It's on, I believe, actually the next slide. Yep. So it's the smaller wetland up towards the parking lot, central to this area. It's a bit of a square. Yep, right there, exactly. So it's an isolated wetland. It's higher on the landscape, but its disconnected nature sort of lowers its sort of value in terms of habitat due to not having a watercourse through it, and animals not necessarily being able to come straight from the water into the wetland itself, along with its small size, sort of make it sort of a less impactful wetland, with most of its value coming from its groundwater recharge and its higher position on the landscape. The next set of wetlands was the emergent wetlands without watercourses. This is the W3. If we actually go back a slide, this is the wetland that occurred essentially next to the building that had been demolished. It's a small isolated wetland. Again, it's disconnected nature, sort of lowers its habitat value in terms of habitat utilization, but and its lower position on the watershed also means that it has less effect on flood attenuation and nutrient management, sort of making it probably one of the lower value wetlands on the site. The forested wetlands with intermittent watercourses, this is W2, W5, W6, W9, W11, and W12. These are mostly on that next slide. These are fairly sloped wetlands with intermittent watercourses throughout them. They primarily serve as sediment toxicant and nutrient removal zones. They contained large areas of bare soil, and it seems like due to flood volumes, these areas fail to accumulate a lot of organic matter and detritus, with those sort of being sent downstream in these areas. They do serve a larger value than an isolated wetland, as they do have watercourses which come through them. So they do attenuate floodwaters, and they are, serving to remove nutrients from those floodwaters. But due to their slope and their lack of a confined outlet, they don't necessarily retain water for very long or process the water in as meaningful a way as something that might have a contained outlet. The forested wetlands with perennial watercourses, this is the largest wetland you're seeing on your screen right now, the W4 and W8. Yeah, so that one, being that it's connected directly to a perennial watercourse and that it receives a fair amount of water, is a bit more is more gently sloping, means that it's able to attenuate peak flows a little bit better than the other wetlands and accumulate more organic matter. It also is a lot better for habitat utilization. This is probably the most active wetland on the site in terms of habitat, just because it's fairly isolated from human activity, and it's able to process water coming in from what is the largest watercourse coming into the site. It's essentially the last line of defense for the pond, in that area. So then the other category, the emergent wetlands with a perennial course, if we go back a slide, this is the wetland one. This is probably the largest wetland on this portion of the site. The left one. Yep, that one right there, exactly. So this wetland, its watercourse is Batterson Pond Park itself. So it is essentially serving as a buffer to the pond itself. It provides stabilization for the bank, shade for the bank, provides a lot of valuable habitat for species in the area. So in terms of, wildlife, it's pretty high value. In terms of sediment intoxicant removal, it might be a little bit lower value because it's not receiving flow onto the site, but it does still attenuate nutrients from the pond. And it would serve as a very good recreational wetland as well as educational wetland, just mainly due to the fact that it's got good access. So because it's near activity, it's a lot easier to get to it and to see it, essentially. So, in terms of educational opportunities and recreational opportunities, it's probably one of the more valuable on the site. And the last wetland type is the vernal pools, of course. So this is, if we go forward a slide, I believe, it is wetland 11. It's located, yep, right there, exactly. So it's pretty high on the landscape. It has a confined outlet, and it has very dense vegetation. So this allows it to capture floodwaters, store floodwaters for a while, earlier in their movement. So helping to attenuate flood volumes, flood peak flows, and also provides very high value in terms of habitat. It is connected to an intermittent stream, which then flows down into wetland, I believe, 10 and 12. And so it has, a connectivity to the larger system, as well as being sort of an area where unique habitat, unique like amphibians and whatnot can utilize for habitat. So for spawning and breeding and whatnot, it's very valuable. Not having fish is a high quality thing for a vernal pool. That way, eggs of the amphibians are not being eaten, etc. Um, and so that is probably one of the more outsized valued wetlands on the site due to its value. This wetland, while it doesn't have access right now, it could serve as a really good educational and recreational area if it, say, had a path to it, maybe perhaps with a plaque explaining things like species that are present and how they operate, sort of bring awareness to, more of some of our more uh, unique and vulnerable amphibian populations. And so probably I'd say, in my opinion, one of the nicest wetlands on the site. And that's essentially a summary of the wetlands on the site. I'm happy to answer questions as well. But and so in terms of the wetlands on the site, that those are their primary functions and values and their locations on the landscape.
All right, thanks, Ethan.
Absolutely.
Next slide, Bruce. Yeah, so as I had mentioned before, we've been engaged with this site for a couple of years now. And part of our due diligence, including what Ethan talked about, the wetland and natural resources side of things, we also looked at history. Historically been used as a park, previously developed as a park, beachfront, support buildings for those type of things, other recreational activities, and historically, a lot of on-water activities have occurred here. Next slide. Also, as part of that analysis, we looked at many other things, including transportation networks around the park. How can people get to and from the park? Looking at public transit, looking at just roadways, the proximity to I-84, proximity to the busway, and also proximity to other recreational resources adjacent in New Britain primarily, and on-road facilities, again, for facilitating pedestrian access through designated bike lanes or Sharrow or the like. We also looked at topography, high and low points, looking at slope and aspect and how those relate and create specific plant communities that are supported on those different areas. And then we've looked at, and kind of just looking in general and identifying opportunities and constraints that help guide our plan moving forward. Next slide. Again, it's just some existing site photos. Next slide. And once we had a thorough understanding of the site, we looked at many things to get inspiration. These are just a collection of images that kind of inspired us, from a very pastoral, passive use, looking at meadows and trees and adjacencies to water bodies, and how people can kind of access those and interact with those. Was really kind of a basis for our inspiration in the plan. Next slide. So after many months of exploring the opportunities, constraints, and natural resources on the site, we went through a series of conceptual brainstorming tasks and ultimately arrived at a plan. Once that plan was prepared, it kind of sat on the shelf, and some people might be aware of the end of 2023 into early 2024. Connecticut Deep kind of stepped in and did their own study as well, to try and determine kind of the best way to move improvements forward between various partnerships, and the like for the park improvements moving forward. We were kind of re-engaged again in early 2024. We kind of dusted off the plans. Since then, riverfront recapture was identified by Deep in the city of Hartford as the logical operator of the park. And working with them, we revised the plan slightly from the master plan phase, and came up with the plan that you see before you. This is kind of the overall plan, really the primarily developed area focuses around the old beach. That's really the intense improvements that are going to occur. And then where Ethan was talking about, a lot of the wetland resources are kind of to the left half of the page. We're proposing a multi-use trail to provide connectivity to and from the park. That will go down and extend to the existing Connecticut Deep controlled boat launch straight on the boundary of Farmington and New Britain. We feel that that's a great connection to provide access from the New Britain side in those neighborhoods along Alexander Road and Batterson Drive, and points further into New Britain. We also are encouraging a connection to the corporate park across from Batterson Park Road. It'll be aligned with the existing driveway there. And this will also not only activate the park during the week for patrons and employees of these businesses, but also drawing people from the new residential buildings that are being developed currently. Next slide. So to kind of zoom in and focus on the big development area, starting on the right-hand side of the plan, we are proposing a new park entrance drive off of Batterson Park Road, north, I guess you would say, before it intersects with 2 Mile Road, just off the sheet. The existing driveway, which is kind of just to the middle center of the right, that will remain, but it will remain as emergency access only. So it will be gated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and will be only used as needed for emergency access. It's also our main utility corridor for services to the park, so we want to maintain that access. The new driveway, as you can see by the rendering, will be kind of a divided one-way in and out with an island. There'll be automated gates there to, again, be deployed to close the park off at the end of operations in the evening, open them up in the morning. There'll be a small kind of personnel shack, guard shack, if you will, at I there, and that will be primarily used for people to gather information as they enter the park. If there's something happening in the park, there'll be people there to kind of assist as you enter, as well as if the parking lot becomes full, they can provide further information there. There's a couple small kind of pull-off spaces as you enter the park, just again, so people can kind of pull off and get assistance and not block the travelway. As you continue down the new site drive, you reconnect to the existing park entrance road that's there today, right where there's a small stream crossing right there. Yep. And then once you go through kind of that little corridor there, it opens up into the larger open space, and this is where we've concentrated the parking. Looking at all the due diligence we did, we, the parking lot here made the most sense. It's outside of any wetlands. It's over kind of current disturbed areas. This is where the building's primarily located. This is also some of the flatter areas on site. There'll be a new paved parking lot to accommodate about 100 vehicles. We'll have, new tree islands. There'll be some parking spaces right where Bruce's cursor was for larger vehicles with maybe small trailers or something like that. There'll also be some on-site bus parking as Riverfront Recapture anticipates, schools and camps coming here, and trying to accommodate that. So right where Bruce's cursor is kind of a space to park buses out of the way. They'll circle around the parking lot, and then we've provided a kind of a pickup and drop off location there, not only for buses but for other vehicles, pedestrian vehicles, and families dropping and picking up people. And that in close proximity to the other amenities of the park. Kind of moving out, away from the parking lot, you'll enter kind of the main core of the park. We envision a new kind of open, multifunctional plaza. There'll be a new amenity support building with restrooms, a concession space that will primarily serve just prepared foods. No preparing of foods will be done in this. There will be no like actual kitchen fixtures in there. And then there'll be a small kind of adjacent covered picnic area to support that building. And then there'll be some small office space for staff in there. And then again, kind of tying all these pieces together, the plaza will again kind of look at D, which is a new playground. And this will be, made of kind of natural wood material equipment, not bright colors, no kind of post and platform, typical playgrounds. It's all wood and rope of natural materials. So very fitting to the pastoral setting of the park. And it sits at kind of a location where, it's a little bit elevated. So you get these nice views out across the old beach and out into the pond. There'll be a small embankment slide there as well, which is kind of a neat, interesting feature for kids to have something to do while they visit the park. F is a proposed new splash pad that'll obviously be seasonal. It'll be controlled by human activated push button controllers. It'll run for a few minutes and then shut off, so you have to keep pushing a button to activate it. G is a covered picnic pavilion slash kind of whatever stage or something like that for future programming that Riverfront has yet to determine what that is, but we've given them an opportunity and a facility for things like that. This all opens out into E, which is kind of just an event lawn, just an open space. It's approximately 1 acre in size. Very flexible and just a nice pastoral kind of space, and that opens up the views as we saw in some of those photographs. Maintains open views to the south and to the meadow and the wetland areas that Ethan were talking about. Kind of circling back around, the kind of the big gray area in the middle. That's just some picnic tables, accessible picnic tables. The gray represents like a gravel surface, it's not an impermeable surface, but it is ADA accessible. There'll be kind of a picnic grove there. And then if you continue on that walk to the right, it'll kind of loop you back to the drop off and pickup location. And then just to the right of that is a new kind of water access route with K, which is proposed to be a canoe and kayak launching point for on-water activities that Riverfront hopes to promote here. We would have a permanent fixed kind of abutment structure. There would be a gangway that traverses outside of the wetlands to the floating dock in the water. And then there'll be a series of kind of floating dock pieces as needed, based on Riverfront Recapture's eventual programming of that. And then adjacent to that, which is a new feature for the commission members, is based on further discussions with Riverfront Recapture. As part of these kind of water activity programming, it was identified that we needed what they call a safety launch. This would be launching of a small watercraft for mobility impaired people that would be out on a kayak or canoe. If they were in distress, that watercraft could be launched from this location within the park itself and be out there to support those people out on the water and not necessarily have to come and be deployed from the existing boat ramp. And that surface leading into the water's edge is kind of a reinforced armor flex material. It's kind of like a precast concrete matting with gravel in it. And again, that will only be used for Riverfront Recapture's safety launch or safety boat launch. No public launching of boats there other than canoes and kayaks. So going kind of, and that piece that's right in the center, just as reference, that's the existing beach. We've designed everything in a way that if someday down the road Connecticut Deep would allow swimming here, it gives the city of Hartford that opportunity to do that. But moving forward in the near term, there'll be signs posted for no swimming out there, and this area will just be left to kind of grow naturally as it is today, to really discourage people from entering the water. And part of that is also the Riverfront Recapture's on-site staff patrolling and making sure that doesn't occur. So kind of looking to the left side of the page, L is a proposed new boardwalk. This generally follows the asphalt pathway through the wetlands and adjacent to the pond, as we were looking in the aerial photograph. We feel that that's a nice complement to the on-site circulation. We wanted to restore hydraulic connectivity without having pavement there. We wanted to promote access without having to worry about getting your feet wet. And it's just a nice addition to the overall circulation. And that loops back around to the existing paved road that meanders through the trees. Now, as part of this project, we want to reestablish picnicking. So those are highlighted in G. Those would be some covered pavilions. There'll be other tables throughout the area amongst the trees. There'll be some grills and coal dispensers there. So safe disposal of hot coals and ashes. So we don't have any wildfire concerns. And then that, again, that paved loop kind of connects you back to the event lawn and in the parking lot as it does today. M is a proposed, we call it kind of an observation platform. It will be elevated above the wetlands. It's generally located on one of the paved courts that are there today to kind of minimize the disturbance of the wetlands. But this is really meant to promote wildlife viewing and just enjoying nature. Through our research, we've and talking to people and neighbors, bird watching is a big deal here on the site. So we wanted to promote that and support that by giving them kind of an elevated platform, so to speak, to do that. And we also moved it back towards the back of the wetlands, again, so you can kind of capture activities in the foreground of the wetlands and then the pond beyond that. If you want to zoom out a little bit, Bruce. And just on the far right side, in J, you can kind of see where the proposed multi-use trail will connect to this kind of core focus group. And that we'll talk about that on another sheet in greater detail. And then one thing I forgot on this page was off to the far right again is the establishment of a walking trail and connection out to Batterson Park Road. It's generally there today. It's typically just kind of a trampled path. But with riverfront recapture, they wanted a more formalized path that's maintainable for them. So we were establishing kind of a gravel walking surface and pathway there that will reconnect a little bit further east on Barrison Park Road. And then just lastly, H is a proposed park maintenance building. This will be where Riverfront Recapture houses their park maintenance equipment. There's a 4-bay garage, very minimal aesthetics. We want to kind of tuck it away and hide it. It generally sits at the location of the old caretaker's house, kind of tucked in amongst the pine trees. So really kind of out of the way. There'll be a gate controlled access for vehicle access here. And then there'll be a pedestrian access to and from, as this will be where staff primarily work out of on a daily basis. I think with that, Bruce, you can move to the next slide. We threw in some images. We did some of these for some public outreach meetings that we held in each community. This one I left in. This one kind of highlights in kind of the left side of the page is how we're dealing with on-site stormwater management. Clearly, we're increasing impervious surface with the large parking lot and the walkways. We're managing that on site with a series of rain gardens, bioretention swales, and basins. And this is kind of our vision of how that would look. Very natural, a lot of plant material, and stabilized edges. This also kind of suggests a little bit of a kind of a neat feature with a bridge that will cross over where these basins kind of hydraulically connect to each other. And just off to the upper left is kind of the old the beach area that will remain as native vegetation as it fills in. Next slide. And then this is just kind of an overview looking south. We can see the large event lawn in the foreground, and then the existing wetlands and meadow in the background, the observation platform, the boardwalk kind of snaking through on the right or left side, and then kind of the picnic grove throughout the trees on the right side. Next slide. So again, this is, the primary focus of the development of the proposed improvements. Next slide. We did prepare kind of there was some questions previously about kind of what will be regularly maintained for kind of typical lawn and what would be kind of more of a seasonal maintain. So this diagram we prepared that indicates in the yellow, large areas of the park will be maintained as seasonal meadow, receiving once a year mowing, just to keep woody material down and promote grass and herbaceous plants to prevail. And then in the green is where we anticipate, kind of those weekly short turf mowings to occur within the park. And that's about 3 acres. Next slide. As I had mentioned in a couple other slides, there is some wetland mitigation restoration that we're proposing. The 4 or 5 kind of blue areas here, 3 of the large ones are those paved existing courts. We're going to remove that asphalt and underlying soils and bring that back as restored wetlands, as depicted in kind of the simple detail there. We'll reinstall wetland soils and wetland vegetation as part of kind of restoring the area here. Based on the numbers, we're looking to remove about 17,850 square feet of impervious surface that are within the wetlands and restoring 12,000. What I didn't do is I didn't account for, the paved walkway where the boardwalk generally follows, just because that will be shaded by the boardwalk. So I didn't want to overestimate it. So I was remaining conservative with that. And all this restoration work will most likely be overseen by Ethan himself or another qualified wetland soil scientist on staff. Next. So look at the multi-use trail connecting to the boat launch. There's 3 watercourse crossings highlighted in the yellow circles. And since we had been before the commission previously, we further worked with engineers and came up with a minimum 25-foot span to clear all those water courses and adjacent wetlands. And we added about 315 feet of boardwalk that kind of snakes between a couple of wetland areas. I believe these were 10 and 11 and 12 on the resource map. We felt that was a good compromise. We couldn't really find a good way to relocate the trail and remain on grade. So we felt that, bringing this to a kind of an elevated boardwalk was the best approach. And just to note, we're about 480 feet plus or minus from the potential vernal pool, from its kind of the trail's closest location. Next slide. These next series of slides just kind of zoom in on each of the kind of watercourse crossings. This is the first one. This happens to be right at the connection to the business park on Batterson Park Road. It's primarily a drainage outfall. So, highly eroded banks here. And we'll be spanning this area with a small bridge section. Next slide. This is kind of, again, traversing south along the trail. This is the next kind of water course that This one is kind of at the southwest corner of the parcel, coming from again Batterson Park Road and draining into the pond. This one's a little bit wider than the previous one. Again, we'll span that with a small bridge. It's envisioned right now that these water crossing bridges will be of the same material and aesthetic as the boardwalk on the focused area. Just for consistency, one manufacturer, highly durable material. So it all kind of stays in the same family. Next slide. This is the third crossing. This one's a little bit bigger. We'll have that bridge that crosses the water course itself, but because of the kind of the fingers of the wetlands identified here, there's some approach sections that will be additional boardwalk that lead up to that stream crossing, just so we can bridge those other those wetlands as indicated with the green line. Next slide. And lastly, just kind of another zoom in on the added elevated boardwalk that kind of snakes between those wetland areas, just down slope of the vernal pool. And then this, about 315 feet will get us through that area. And that, again, was to really minimize disturbance between these two and maintain that hydraulic connectivity. Next slide. So just to, for the benefit of the commission members, since we last met in November, December, we did respond to initial town staff comments from November 1st. We responded on December 10th. In the proposed driveway, we've formalized that shift that we talked about before. It will require some limited clearing for sight line distance, primarily to the west of that entrance. Secondly, we removed the fishing pier that we had proposed. In talking further with Riverfront in the city of Hartford, their vision is for something a little bit more substantial there. So we removed that as part of this project, but we will, if that moves forward, we will certainly come before the commission again for a more robust design on what that becomes. And like I mentioned, we added the safety launch adjacent to the kayak launch for support of the aquatics program that Riverfront Recapture proposes. And then kind of right there in the center, we've had a lot of back and forth with town staff about water quality volumes and stormwater management. We made some minor changes of that, trying to maximize our water quality volume to the greatest extent practicable. Next slide. So zoom in on the new driveway location. I was out there a few weeks ago. I did the best that I could with a tape measure. I located the sight line triangle, which is in the hatched area on the plan. There's orange flagging out there that if it's tied around a tree, those are trees that are going to be needed to be removed. And there really is only the one right there in the center. It's kind of a cluster of trees, but there's one primary 6-inch plus caliper tree. And then in the photo to the right, there's a singular tree that has a ribbon tied around it. And then there's that small cluster of trees right there. There's a white pine and some other hardwoods with a lot of invasive vines hanging off them. Those are the only ones that we anticipate having to remove as part of the sightline distance requirements. That's based off of a 35 mile per hour, which is 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. And again, kind of shown generally in plan, we don't have those specifically identified individually, but those are generally where they are located. Luckily, as part of this, the town has been maintaining a pretty wide right of way over the years, so there really is minimal tree clearing needed here. There'll obviously be some additional mowing of lower kind of scrubby vegetation, but for any significant trees, there's only those three groups. Next slide. I'm going to hand it over to Matt Steffen, our civil engineer. He's going to walk through several of the other key changes since we last met.
Thanks, Jesse. Good evening. As Jesse said, I'm Matt Steffen, the project engineer. So to start with, I think we'll talk about the erosion and sedimentation controls during construction. So they are all designed in accordance with the new 2024 erosion control manual. So you can see highlighted in the magenta there, we are proposing 2 temporary sediment traps, one towards the south, one towards the north. So the south one will collect a pretty significant portion of the disturbed area of the site. I think it's about 2.5 or 3 acres worth of runoff. And then the one to the north is intended to collect mostly the insulation of the driveway and the future water quality swale that we're proposing there. Additionally, we have some of our soil stockpile locations shown. We have located them outside of the 150-foot wetland buffer, and they will be protected by silt fence or straw wattles during construction. And then you can see highlighted below in red, essentially wherever we're adjacent to the pond or the wetlands, we have a row of silt fence, also reinforced with a row of straw wattles as well. And then up towards Batterson Park Road, you can see we do have a few construction entrances. The one towards the north is an alternative entrance that may be utilized. The primary one will likely be at the existing access from Batterson Park Road. Next slide, please. So as Jesse mentioned before, we're proposing to address water quality using all above ground measures. So in this case, as you can see, we have 5 proposed bioretention basins highlighted there in blue. The one towards the north, you can see captures the driveway, and it also has a dry water quality swale that will provide some pre-treatment as well for the bioretention. The main one, the largest one, number 1, is located to the south of that, and that's intended to pick up the majority of the parking lot. And that also has a sediment forebay to collect any floatables and pollutants and everything as pre-treatment. Over to the left, we have another bioretention basin that'll collect some of the path as well as some of the other developed areas of the site. We do have only a few catch basins and pipes proposed on site, but there are a few in the parking lot, and that'll pick up some of that drainage as well. And then up towards the north, we have 2 additional bioretention basins to help pick up some of that area as well. And those will both discharge to a pipe that outlets into the adjacent wetland there, just to the right there where the cursor is. And so the focus of the design was really, as I said, to focus on overland flow and promoting lots of sheet flow. We tried to use as little drainage and underground piping as possible. Some of the big constraints and challenges on the site are we have some pretty poor soils, as we saw in our geotechnical investigation, and groundwater is fairly shallow. So infiltration is a bit of a challenge. We've designed the basins to be very shallow and as large in bottom area as possible in order to not overcharge the groundwater and maintain that vertical separation of 3 feet that's required. And so what we're doing with our stormwater design is we're proposing to meet the required retention volume to the maximum extent practicable. In this case, it's about 63% of the water quality volume total. And what that really means is we're going to be holding 63% of that water quality volume on site to infiltrate into the ground. And per the water quality manual, what we're proposing to do to actually meet the standards is what's provided here in bioretention will still meet all of the pollutant removals. So that's, total suspended solids, nitrogen, phosphorus. So the design you can see as shown does provide all of those pollutant reductions to meet the stormwater manual. Next slide, please. We did consider some alternatives, which I wanted to discuss this one in particular tonight. So we've been talking with the with town staff and going back and forth. Originally, we always knew that infiltration would be a challenge on this site. Our goal initially was to try to retain about 50% of the water quality volume on site. So we were pleased to get closer to about 2/3 of it. We did want to look at what it would take to achieve the 100% of the water quality volume. And just to note, the concept of the maximum extent achievable, it is something that is allowed per the water quality manual. It doesn't necessarily have a specific hard or fast definition or rule. It's really subject to the local review authority, which would be this commission. So we wanted to demonstrate what we've been able to provide as the maximum extent practicable, what we feel is the maximum extent. And then this is to demonstrate what would be fully required. So we need approximately 7,500 additional square feet of area in bioretention basin 1, as you can see here in blue. And that's the general extent that would be required. So this is obviously not preferred. As Jesse mentioned, swimming is not going to be allowed as part of this project. However, all the stakeholders involved are certainly hoping in the future someday maybe, water access could be allowed for swimming, and constructing the basin to be this size we feel would essentially preclude that from ever taking place. So that was our justification for going for the 63% as the maximum extent practicable, and still, again, providing all the pollutant removals to meet the reduction requirements for the water quality manual. But we felt that meeting it to 100% would ultimately be detrimental to the long-term goals of the park. Next slide, please. So to touch base on the proposed utilities just a little bit, the site is served by water, electric, telecom, sewer. Highlighted here in green, I just wanted to note some of the features that we have in order to help protect the environment and prevent any spillages or anything like that. To the north from the maintenance building, where we have equipment stored in the garage, we are proposing an oil and water separator to capture any oil that may escape or anything from an accident or a failure of the machinery. To the south, where the splash pad is located that Jesse mentioned, we're proposing a rain diverter valve for that outlet. So the intent is that when the splash pad is in operation, the valve is switched open so that all the runoff from the splash pad will go into the sewer system. But then once there's no longer any power going to the splash pad, when it's not in activation, it remains in a different position. So any rainwater, anything like that, doesn't get into the sewer system and overtax it. And as well as providing the benefit of ensuring that the splash pad wastewater also does not get into the stormwater system and ultimately into Batterson Park Pond. And then you can see where the two green lines meet and connect into one. That's going into a pump chamber that ultimately will pump a force main into the town system up on Batterson Park Road. That does have a high level alarm, as well as emergency storage of a few hundred gallons above that level. So there will be a panel located in the maintenance building. It can also be set up with wireless to basically text the operator to let them know if there's an issue with one of the pumps, that the high level has been triggered. So staff will be prepared to take measures and actions so that the pump chamber wouldn't overtop or anything like that. Next slide, please. A part of our analysis of the site, there is a small portion of it, as you can see here, that's in the Zone A FEMA floodplain. So this graphic here is a demonstration of the existing available volume within the floodplain. Batterson Park Pond is controlled via a spillway. It's approximately elevation 306. So we looked at a 3-foot sort of portion of that storage, assuming that water is not going to overtop the spillway by greater than 3 feet. So this graphic is basically demonstrating the horizontal plan areas of those 3 contours, 307, 308, and 309, and the total existing volume between the FEMA floodplain and the pond limits is about 130,000 cubic feet. And so on the next slide, This is the same graphic, but now with our proposed grading. So we are proposing a net cut. You can see the majority of that additional volume comes from the bioretention basins, where we are proposing some cut. So this results in approximately 5,000 cubic feet of additional storage added to the floodplain. So as part of this project, we would not anticipate any negative impacts to the flood storage capacity of the pond from our grading activities. And I believe I'll turn it back to Jesse just to wrap it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. So obviously we presented a lot of information. We've been before this commission a couple times. We've had site walks. So hopefully, again, presenting kind of the newest information and changes based on town staff coordination and comments. We hope that we can get a positive outcome to this public hearing. With that, we'll open it back to the commission. Thank you.
You there, Ned?
Yeah, I forgot I was muted.
Nope, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much for the very thorough and in-depth presentation. A lot of information. I'm gonna, well, I guess I'll start with a quick question. So, the boardwalk that's proposed in a few places, um, is any of that, like a timber material that's gonna require either chemical or oil-based stains or wood preservatives on it?
No, so right now we're proposing steel helical piles to minimize direct impact to wetlands. And those can be easily done by smaller machines. And then the structure of the boardwalk itself is actually a precast concrete product. And then there'll be curbing for those lower areas, and then where those crossings are of the water courses, there'll obviously be need for railings, but those will be made out of like a cedar, untreated cedar, naturally rot resistant wood material in those locations. But the tread of the boardwalk and supporting structure of the boardwalk is a precast concrete product.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll go through the board and see, I'll give them an opportunity to ask any questions. Rich Berlandi,
Thank the applicant for a very thorough presentation. I don't have any questions.
very good. Dave Fox,
Yes, I agree. It was quite a thorough presentation. I just had a couple of questions. What is the total wetland impact square footage? I guess there's been some changes since the last time. I think you were at maybe 4,800 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so that would be permanent impact. We're still at 4,800 because luckily when we put in this application, we overestimated just to be conservative about it. So these changes that we're talking about tonight luckily has not changed that overall direct impact or permanent impact.
And a lot of the changes really minimized impacts to the wetlands
Right,
by the
right.
boat ramp, which was very good. And staying away from the vernal pool. But Ethan did mention something about perhaps using the vernal pool as some sort of an educational resource with maybe a path going up towards that. Is that something to be thought of in the future, or is that?
Yes, I think it certainly could be. We're not proposing any formalized path at this point in the project.
I would think there might be some sort of a trade-off of, you know, pointing the kids to a path to go catch frogs, for instance.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's something we could possibly work with Riverfront and the city of Hartford to
Yeah, maybe
provide
as an
some
educational
education.
tool, but you know, if the kids are going to take all the frogs out of the pool, it's
Yep.
I think that's all I have at this point.
And Mr. Chair, if I could just interject real quick, I
Sure.
forgot to mention, I just wanted to make the commission aware that, we're receiving some pricing from contractors, and there may be a need to phase some of this work that we're showing you tonight, primarily probably focusing on that trail that may need to be pushed to a future phase. But certainly we want to get it all permitted and approved from this commission, but I just wanted to make you aware that certain things might need to be phased based on budget.
Okay, thank you. Robert Eisner.
Thank you, Chair. I too agree that the presentation was very nicely done, so thanks to the team. I'm generally supportive of the project because I think it will maximize the recreational and educational value of the wetlands. And that comes, with the balance of some modest impacts. But I do have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask the team. During the presentation, there was a discussion that there was going to be a more robust waterfront development at some point. What's the general vision at this point, even though it's something that's come before us at a future date?
Is there anything like specifically like the fishing pier or something like that? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, Jesse, you had said that there was going to be a more robust development in the future. So on that map, the lower left circle, you said that area was going to come back at a future time with a.
Yeah, so originally we had proposed kind of a similar like floating dock system like we are with the kayak launch. But again, talking with the city of Hartford and Riverfront Recapture, their vision is for something more permanent. So, pile supported deck, that will actually be a permanent structure, permanent fixture out there. That's what I mean by kind of a more robust project. So obviously that's this commission, it's state, federal permitting. That's well beyond the schedule of this project. So we had to pull it out.
Okay, thanks. That's the clarification that I wanted.
Okay.
For the future maintenance of the property, we typically, with developments, impose an integrated pest management strategy for maintenance. And I think given the water quality issues of Batterson Park Pond, if that's not already part of the plan, I'd like to see that for the other commission members to consider as a condition of approval. Jesse, during your presentation, you referenced that the restoration aspects of the project would likely be overseen by Ethan or someone with similar qualifications. Again, I think that should be a firm commitment, and that would be something I would lean towards a condition of approval to make sure we have Ethan or someone of similar qualification overseeing the restoration areas. I do have a question. What will the trash policy be for the overall park? Will trash receptacles and collection be part of the normal maintenance, or is it a carry in, carry out policy?
I believe trash is part of a daily activity with staff. There is a location for dumpster for disposal, and then there's trash cans throughout this focused developed area that will be emptied on a regular basis.
Okay, thanks. And I actually think based on, for those of you that run the site walk, I imagine with more active use, the litter control and maintenance will be improved from the current state. And the last thing that I just wanted to make sure was part of the record that in the site walk, the discussion in our prior meetings, the discussion that this will be a full public access park. It's not limited to the city of Hartford, correct?
That's correct. Open to everybody.
Great, thank you. And that is all the comments that I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Neil Kelsey.
Yeah, thank you for the detailed presentation tonight. That was very, very helpful. I just have a question as we look forward, because I know there's no swimming in the pond currently or envisioned right now due to the water quality. And I appreciate getting a copy of the report from, I think it was January of last year. that the team sent us in December. So thank you for sharing that with us. It was very helpful. I do envision, though, that at some point there will be a desire to clean up the water quality, improve the water quality, so that they will be able to allow swimming in that pond. You mentioned in one of the slides late in the presentation the one with the larger basin, that you said it was not feasible or a good idea to do that at this time. Is that something that would be part of a longer term cleanup of the water quality, and what other changes might be made to this current plan that would help improve the water quality going forward? And the reason I'm asking is, are there things that would require you to rip up or change what this current plan does, and go through another round of disturbance and construction or what have you, if and when we get to the point of improving the water quality? I understand that's conjecture, but if you could, give an opinion on that.
Yeah, so I think the real thing that would change on the site development side is just to the east of the amenity building that we see kind of here. We've made provisions for space to accommodate a future kind of expansion and inclusion of like changing rooms or locker rooms, those type of spaces for when and if the beach ever becomes active again. Other than that, and that area is kind of accounted for in our current stormwater management plan.
Mhm.
So other than that, there would be no development. Obviously, the beach would need some nourishment, I guess you would say, to kind of reestablish some sand and, remove some vegetation and make it a beach again. But other than that, there wouldn't be any significant changes to, the development that we shared with you today.
Okay. And thank you for bringing up the slide that I was referring to. Would this basin be part of a plan potentially?
Again, I don't think so, Matt, if you want to step in here, but I believe really this is just a show, kind of, support our case for why we really can't meet the 100% water quality volume, and why that, it would basically preclude this project ever from having a beach because it would sit, as you see here, right in that space. You'd have to traverse this kind of, dip, in the ground to kind of get between the restroom amenities space to the water's edge. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah, thanks for your thoughts on that. Nothing further from me at this time.
Thank you. Mark Simpson?
Yes, I'd like to say there was a very, very enjoyable presentation. It gave us a lot of information, and previous discussions were very helpful too. I have no questions. The only thing I felt a little concerned about was the vernal pool, and I understand you want to do an educational aspect of it, but I guess it would be under close supervision. I'd be a little worried about disturbance of that vital wetland. So I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Bruce, Andre or Jay never signed in, did they?
No,
Okay, or George?
no.
Okay. I don't have the other question I had was that emergency or ramp for emergency boats or something. What is that material made of? It's not a normal dock?
no, so that's that safety launch is a like a precast concrete carpet, I guess you could say. It's really meant to kind of stabilize. Looks like Bruce is pulling up the detail for it. It's meant to stabilize soils at the water's edge from eroding,
Okay.
with wave action occurring from, the wind in this case, from eroding into the water. Yeah, right there. So it's kind of like a mat.
Okay,
It just
great.
gets
Got
laid
it.
over, the ground surface, and then you work in, you can add like a gravel into it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I think it was an excellent presentation. A lot of thought has gone into this design. I do agree with the thought of not having a sedimentation basin so large as to collect 100%. I think that was the right call on that. Because, hopefully we can get more use out of this site if the Patterson Park pond, continues to improve. Um, I think that's all I have for questions. I will open this up to the public at this point. If you'd like to speak in favor of or in opposition of this project, please put your hand up for Bruce to see. And remember that we require that everybody who speaks gives their name and address, please. Bruce?
And
Anybody?
I just want to remind everyone as well, this application or this hearing is geared strictly towards the inland wetlands portion of it. They will be having a separate hearing with planning and zoning that deals with the operation. So just to keep that in mind when you're giving your questions and comments. First one here is a Joseph Krigwitz. You should be allowed to talk now. Don't forget to give your name and your address, please. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Joseph Grickowitz, 47 Belridge Road in New Britain. I live on the opposite side of the lake from this.
Bellwood. Okay.
I've got, can you put up the design update picture that was on there? I guess that one's good enough. Where you have K, these two, the one, I guess, where you can launch kayaks and canoes, and the separate one that's for a safety boat or whatever you want to call it. I've lived on this lake for 65 years. I know what's come. I know what's gone. I was here when I was a kid when the beach was first opened, I guess. I remember it well. Right now, that whole area in front of there is so overgrown with weeds that you can't launch a kayak or a canoe or a safety boat. I fish this lake at least once a week with a bass boat. I can't get in there. There's just too much vegetation, and it goes out. It's out about 200 feet. It dropped till it drops off to about 6 feet deep where the sun can't get to the base anymore. And it's about, I want to say, a football field right and left of the beach. So there's no way that will work without doing some type of dredging in that area and getting rid of the weeds. And you're going to have to go out, like I said, about 200 feet to clear a path. That would be right about there where his hand is. I hear some things that I've lived on a lake. I've watched what's going on with it health wise. There are no frogs in this lake. They died off years ago. There are very few turtles. In the last 5 to 7 years, I've watched this lake slowly dying. I guess some of my concerns would be that you're talking about buses and 100 cars. So you're probably talking 200 to 400 people on property. I don't see how you're going to get them in there because 2 Mile Road is too narrow for bike paths. It's too narrow for buses. Batterson Park Road has a bridge right where you're proposing the entrance that needs to be redone. It's like sinking on both sides of it. I'm questioning when homeowners were talked to about this because I haven't heard any of this. I've heard wind of it's going, it's not going, it's going, it's not going through the grapevine. I haven't heard anything until last Friday when I got a certified letter that there was going to be a hearing. I don't understand. There's so much development in that area now across the road where the apartments are being built. That's taken away even more wildlife area. You're proposing a huge parking lot and you're going to put, again, a minimum of 200 people in this place. You're going to drive away whatever wildlife is left in here. There is a fence if you're facing the beach to the far left. That should be taken down in my opinion, because I don't believe that they can cross it to get in and out. As far as the path that's going to the boat launch, you don't want people in that boat launch. It's a haven for drugs. It's not patrolled. In the last 2 years, there's been 2 boats abandoned without trailers in the parking lot. There's no police presence. There's no DEP presence except for mowing grass and picking up the garbage, which people throw out of their cars and actually dump loads of garbage out of the back of their pickup trucks. The access road is full of potholes. I call every spring to see if they'll fill them because I need to trailer my boat in and out. They typically get around to it around the end of August, the beginning of September, because they're needed in so many other areas. This boat launch is neglected. The launch for the boats itself is starting to deteriorate, where it's almost to the point where it's not wide enough to launch a boat. The parking lot itself is only supposed to be for boaters and people fishing. It's not. I don't even fish there at night because I don't trust leaving my boat. And I typically don't fish after noon because I don't trust my truck or my trailer in the parking lot. Typically I'll fish in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock till probably 10:30. And I want to get out of that boat launch for that reason. Let's see, what else did I have?
Let's remember to keep your comments to the project itself, please.
Well, that you were talking about building a trail to the boat launch. I'm trying to explain why that's not a good idea. You were talking about if you're facing the water where the beach is now and running a trail around where the water is coming in from to the left, which goes down along the western shore of the lake, the other way, to the other side. There's wetlands in there. They're hard to see, but it's muddy. You really can't walk through there. They don't mow it that often. That's a whole nother thing. Let's see, what else did I have? Like I said, there's a shortage of wildlife as it is now. I don't know what the DEP is planning to do with this. I don't know how they can clean up what's in the water to make it swimmable as you're talking about future expansion. I don't know. It seems like you're talking about nature, but you're destroying where it would be. There used to be deer, there used to be an occasional bear, bobcats, those kind of things, fox, coyotes, they're gone. They don't come around anymore because there's no habitat. They're losing their habitat. And that's probably my biggest issue with the whole thing. From when you showed me that, when you put up that picture of the drawing of where the parking lot is and all of that, that's a huge area of paving. I don't know. I guess that's my concern. And I guess I'll leave it at that. I got another certified letter today about there's another meeting on the 13th at 7 p.m. zoning.
Yes, that's Planning and Zoning Commission. It's a separate commission from this.
Now, how much of that controls this?
Well, the Inland Wetlands Commission is here to review the protection of the waterway and the environment. Planning and zoning is more about the building and how the work's going to be done, things like that.
Okay,
But it's the same project.
right,
We just have different responsibilities to cover.
yeah. All I ask is that you give what I've told you some consideration. Like I said, I've lived here 65 years. I've seen a lake. One of my other concerns is living across the lake. There's no buffer from noise. And I've had to call the police more than once before the park was closed down for music that was so loud. I couldn't watch TV with my windows closed. And I am going to tell you this. If that's what's going to happen here, and I hope it doesn't, I will call every day, because it's not fair to us that live on the other side of the lake. And like I don't know who's been asked or been told about this, because like I said, it's the first I've heard of it, that it was this big a design. I just don't think it's good for the environment, and you guys are the ones that are in charge of it. So that's all I have to say.
Well, in regards to your but the operation, we hope to see your improvement, because it'll be a group riverfront recapture who have experience in nature, utilizing nature and resources, and they are an operator, or they will be an operator for the city of Hartford. So we hope that it can run. I think it can run smoothly. They have a lot of experience, and we'll see how it goes.
Right.
Thank you for your comment.
I don't doubt they can run it smoothly. I'm looking at this picture on the screen right now. And to me, if you came in and planted some more trees, would be a better idea, less expensive and a better idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Just please raise their hand using the Zoom function. I know there was a Uh, Naomi had her hand raised earlier. If she still wants to speak, just let me know. Oh, there she is. Naomi, oh, I got upside. Thank you, Sandy.
You hear me?
Yep, Naomi, if you just give us your name and your address, please.
Naomi Silverman, 329 Alexander Road, New Britain. I'm on the New Britain side of the pond and was wondering if there's a plan to extend the multi-use trail from the boat launch around the New Britain side of the pond, completing the circle.
At this point, they're only showing it. Let me go back. Give me a second. At this plant, they're only showing it to come around and end over here. Chair, that's up to you if you want to bring in the presenter to answer that.
I've seen previous drawings that showed a trail going all the way around, so I was just wondering what the status is.
I don't know, the designer, do you have any information on that? Was that an earlier draft or?
Yeah, I believe she's referencing the master plan from last year where we did contemplate kind of a loop trail around the entirety of the pond. Aside from what you see tonight, everything else is out of the project. We're not pursuing that.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has a comment or questions?
Please raise your hand using the Zoom function and we will bring you in. Going once. Twice. All right. And that's 3. Chair, I don't see anybody else raising their hand.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We got a lot of information tonight, and I don't know if people feel they need a little more time um, to look things over and to review it. When I say people, I mean the commission. So I will maybe poll the commissioners and see if they think they've had enough time to review this. And if we should, I guess to you, Bruce, can we close the public hearing and still get information from the consultant?
No,
No,
at this
okay,
point,
so
at this
if-
point, we need to leave the 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 hearing open for 2 reasons. One of them is if the commission is not ready to vote in terms of and need more information, then yes, we would need to leave the hearing open to allow that to happen. Also, as we discussed, as I put in the email to everybody, is that technically this needs to be referred to the Conservation Commission first. So that needs to be, so the hearing needs to be left open so that technically they can, so the Conservation Commission can provide any input back or recommendations to the Inland Wetlands Commission. So
Okay.
that's going to be after this meeting. So after this meeting, the applicants can stay on and we'll just go over a little bit, discuss it and see if there's any other comments in terms of conservation. And then at that point, we can possibly close the hearing next meeting and vote.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so then I really need to pull the commissioner. I have a feeling that seeing we did get so much information tonight that most people won't be ready to vote, and since we're keeping the hearing open for the Conservation Commission, that we'll just go ahead with that. I guess I'll ask if any members of the commission. Oh, let me ask you this. So will there be an opportunity for public input at the next meeting also?
Technically, the hearing is still open, so if
Okay.
anyone does call in and something's changed, they can talk about it. So,
Okay. All right, so I'll just,
Bruce, quick
Yeah.
question. Can the public submit public written comments during the hearing too, or does it have to be
yes,
verbal?
yes.
Okay.
No, that could be done as well. They can submit comments to the office here.
Okay.
And we could take those, and then what we'll do is we'll pull those all together, and then we'll forward those to the commissioners. So
Okay.
they can review
Thank you.
those.
So that remains open until the next meeting.
Exactly. Once the hearing is closed, then there's no more input.
Yep.
That can be brought to the commission, and then the commission just deliberates. So
Okay. Thanks for the
just like a
clarification.
court case, just like court.
Okay.
So
Oh, yeah.
the only thing that we'll need from you guys, if you don't mind, is a vote to continue the hearing should we get to that point. All right?
Okay, before we do that, I want to give all the commissioners the opportunity if thought of any additional questions for the consultant. Now's your opportunity.
This is Dave. Yeah, I did have something else to ask. I'm not sure if it's to the consultant or to Bruce, but there was talk about the stormwater approval. They have less than the maximum extent achievable of on-site retention. And that was supposedly signed off by a local entity. And it was mentioned that we are the local entity. Is that our commission, or is that staff
Well,
that makes that determination?
Here's the little background on that. The Connecticut DEP Water Quality Manual, all right, for a redevelopment of the site such as this. Hold on one second. Somebody's mic is going off here. States that for a redevelopment project as such, they need to treat 100% of the water quality volume. So 100% of the water quality volume is technically designed as 1.3 inches of rain over the developed portion of the site. Okay, so as they said in the report, they're like 60%. Okay, so what that means is we've asked them, we pushed back and said, the regulation requires 100%. However, there is an avenue to allow less based on site restrictions and such. So we just got this plan this afternoon. So we really haven't had a lot of time to dive into it. But yes, as part of your, to make the long and short, yes, you guys do have some kind of a decision making process in this, understanding that wetlands, water quality volume, and water quality are all connected. So that's kind of where they were demonstrating that they feel the only spot. Get to that plan. Give me a second. Right here, available is the beach area. All right, because everything else with parking lots, lawn area, walkways, and things like that, that leads you to just this spot here to be able to provide 100% of the water quality. So that is one of the factors, is saying that it's the maximum extent achievable, meaning there is site restrictions, and they do have some in terms of the groundwater. The groundwater reports in there. The groundwater is, I think, want to say 2 to 3 feet down. So it doesn't give a lot of room for doing deeper basins, and it doesn't give a lot of room for groundwater infiltration. But they did state when you come into here, they do give the option where you have to treat for both total suspended solids, phosphorus, and the nitrogen. There is calculations in there that prove that they do meet that with based on the design that they have. So, I mean, I think it's something that we do need to consider as part of our review. Does that answer the question, Dave?
Who is the we?
Well, we as I said, it's staff and both the commission as well.
Okay,
Because as
you just got this, so you haven't been able.
I just got this. So I mean, like I said, the wetlands, wetlands is affected by water quality,
Right.
right? And so therefore, it gets rolled into your review to say, geez, are we doing the best we can to protect the wetlands? So that's part of the discussion.
Okay, and we can discuss that next time after you guys have had a chance to look at it.
exactly.
Very good. Thank you.
All right.
Now you making me think about this. So one part that I'm confused on is, and I guess this is a consultant. So in this view here, we're showing the 5 smaller basins. Now, are you saying that this is the option you're choosing as opposed to having one larger basin that takes 100% of what would be required to retain the groundwater, to retain the retention basin water? Or, I mean, could you make some of these, 5 individual ones larger and especially the one that's not adjacent to maybe a possible future beach area? Is it possible to make some of the other ones larger and get a higher percentage that enters the retention basin or a retention basin?
Matt, are you still on?
Yep, I'm still here.
Yeah. Do you mind going over that with the chair?
Yeah, no problem. So we did look at that. What we sort of determined is based on the way we've laid out the site, the topography is really important, and then sort of the vegetation limits. Really, the only basin that there's sort of even feasible room to expand is that first one down at the bottom. If you look at some of the other ones, like for example, the one to the left of that, um, basically if extending that one isn't going to help too much because it won't capture any additional water from the site. It's really only going to pick up more runoff from like the woods to the left. And then constructing it itself actually is more clearing, grading when we prefer to leave the site as, vegetated as possible. And then you kind of run into similar situations with the other 3 where, we don't, the one over by the maintenance building, we would prefer to not move it any closer to the wetlands, any more clearing. Same with number 4 over by the driveway. That's, you can see, is kind of wedged in right against, the wetland, the driveway, the water quality swale. So unfortunately, we'd love to sort of expand each one by a little bit to get it, but we really came at this making them as large as feasible, really, without having over sort of clearing and grading just to treat additional.
What about some of we've had in some larger projects, and I don't know if costs would make this prohibitive, but some of the underground storage, like I'm thinking in the area underneath the pavement, that could be made into an additional underground storage area.
Yeah, we didn't consider underground storage again because of the high groundwater. So the
Oh, right.
systems can only be very shallow and they don't provide very much storage.
Okay. Thank you.
And Chair, I think just to clarify your earlier question, you had asked, is this basin in lieu of the others? No, that basin down here, that proposed one that they don't want to do
Right.
would be in addition to these other 5 to total the 100.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that answered my question. Thank you.
Good.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion to extend the public hearing until the next meeting.
So
Somebody?
moved by Dave.
Okay. And a second, please.
Second by Eisner.
All right. So,
With noting the date of the hearing, we should put that on the record. The date is the 22nd, January 22nd.
January 22nd. Very good. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, so the motion is to continue the public hearing and the meeting until the meeting of January 22nd. Been made and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, the motion carries.
A reminder for the team for this application, if you don't mind just staying on so we can get through the rest of this, and then we'll touch base again in the conservation.
Okay.
All right. Next. Give me a second to change graphics here because I can't have so many drawings open. So what's next? All right. And I think, let me see, who's on for the application?
Hi, good evening. Matt Gustafson is
Oh,
here.
Matt, you're here. Thank you.
And I'm here as well, Albert Tommaso.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So if you can, Bruce, I'll try to keep this brief since we went over a majority of this project in last month's meeting. If you go down to slide, I think it's 6 with the overview plan.
Page on here, 4, 5.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
So as way of a brief recap, we came to you guys last month for a project with maintenance on Poplar Swamp Brook. We had generally 3 major elements. One was sediment restoration on 7 total areas, as well as a culvert repair and a second culvert restoration and removal. As part of that proceeding, the commission was in agreement that the sediment restoration and the culvert repair were non-regulated activities as part of routine maintenance. But they did feel as though the culvert removal and restoration did not fall into that category and would be considered a application, which is why we are here tonight before you. This culvert 2 removal is that pink dot as a way of reminding everyone that Bruce is zooming in on now. If you want to now go to, you can skip a slide and go to the slide 8. If you can, please. Perfect, thank you. Just rehashing, this is the general location. Top right is the existing maintenance path that's currently not used. Pictures to your bottom left is the inlet of the culvert that is crushed and in disrepair. And then the bottom right is the outfall of the culvert where it can be very clearly seen that it's rotting out. As way of recap, we did evaluate repair of the culvert, but because this is not really used, it was determined that the most prudent, feasible alternative would be removal of the culvert and crossing and restoration of the natural stream in this location. As such, the plan is to remove the twin 36-inch corrugated metal culvert crossing. This would entail removal of the overlying fill, both the culverts as well as over excavation into the underlying fill that we expect is depressed into the old stream bed. Then we would, using some of the material that we have mined from the other areas of sediment removal restoration for other parts of Poplar Swamp Brook, fill back in that over excavation, matching the upstream and downstream grades, as well as stabilize the newly created stream bed and banks. Everything would be seeded and then oversown with a naturally woven erosion control blanket, a non-synthetic product, something that would not result in wildlife entanglement issues. All this work would be overseen by myself, and the town would be notified prior to work start. If you want to skip 2 more slides to slide 10, you can ignore most of what is on this page, as most of that is the culvert 1 repair that we have already gone over. Where we want to focus in on is that bottom right, the culvert 2 removal. That's our plan here. Again, I'm not going to rehash what we've already gone over, but that is the details for what we're looking at tonight. So I'll keep things brief. I'll open up to any questions, and I appreciate everyone's time and thank you for hearing our application tonight. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you for your patience with the length of the public hearing that we had to have. I do have a couple questions. I watched the video of the presentation from the last meeting. To what depths did you remove? Let me, I guess I'll start with, did you go ahead and complete the other maintenance work that you were talking about?
Thank you for asking that. Unfortunately, we had about 3 to 4 months of 0 rain up until that hearing, and then literally the week after, it has decided to rain and then freeze all the way up until this meeting. So unfortunately, because of the conditions, Tungsys is very mindful in trying to do this work during an opportune period that doesn't result in in damage or degradation to the stream during the work. So they've currently held off because of the rain and then freezing ground conditions. Their plan is to, once that alleviates, the frost comes out and we get a dry period, to complete that work. But no, to your question, we have not completed that work to date.
Okay. What is your expectation on how deep the sediment would be removed in some of these areas?
So for the actual culvert 2 removal, we expect about a foot. Obviously, there's overlying fill, and typically what you see when you have underlying organics, like you would in the stream, you get some depression of the overlying fill just from mechanical weight pressing into the organics. Like I said, we expect a foot. It may be less, it may be a little bit more, but we certainly have enough suitable material that we will be excavating from other parts to meet that need. As far as the other sediment restoration areas, there is a piece in the application that goes area by area on the application that we had submitted previously. That goes section by section on the depths that we found at each location. Generally, what we're looking at, averaging over the area, is about 10 inches to 18 to 20 inches. There are some deeper pockets, which I believe are associated with area 5, in which the depths are a little bit more, closer to 2 feet. In that location, we're not proposing to fully remove all the sediment because it would just be a much larger impact. In that location, we are looking to just reestablish the stream channel in that area. And so we're excavating just out a foot of area, or a foot of stream material through that area to reconfigure the stream and allow for clear flow between those two culverts.
Okay. And where did you say you're getting the natural stream bed material to put back?
So we will be using the material that we're excavating from those sediment restoration areas as suitable stream bed material for that culvert 2 removal.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Let me see if what commission members have questions. Rich Berlandi,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Dave Fox,
I have no questions, but just for the record, I did watch the streaming for the previous meeting. Thank
Okay.
you.
Robert Eisner.
Just for the removal of culvert 2, what's the duration I know you said you have to sort of wait till things thaw out, but what's the duration once you start that work?
We expect to be able to complete it in 1 to 2 days. It's fairly straightforward work. It's going to be handled with a mini excavator. So assuming everything kind of lines up, I think it can be done in a day with probably some cleanup, seeding, putting down the erosion blanket on the second day.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Neil Kelsey.
I don't have anything at this point. Thank you.
All right. Mark Simpson.
No questions for me also.
Okay. Bruce, I just did they work with you to meet any of the suggestions you had in the agenda review? Is there anything that needs to be included in this?
No, I think they're aware of just the developing of a future maintenance plan for the brook, coordinate maintenance work with town staff, and all work to be completed under supervision of the environmental manager. So, and then to provide a report at the end. So they don't have any problems with those.
Okay. All right, then I guess I can entertain a motion to approve. Because we did the other part at the last meeting, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we determined
Non-significant.
So
okay. So if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the application
with the conditions of approval. Consider.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
So
do we have
so moved.
Does this have to go through the Conservation Commission also?
No, no.
Okay. I thought that was, all right.
So,
I'm sorry,
Mr. Chair,
wait,
I'll move to approve the application with the conditions that the applicant work with staff to develop a future maintenance plan for the brook to coordinate the maintenance and restoration work proposed, that all work is to be completed under the supervision of the project environmental monitor, and the applicant shall provide a completion report at the end of the work by the application's environmental monitor.
an excellent motion. Do I have a second?
That's Mark, second.
Okay. Motion been made and seconded, or motion been made with the stipulations and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? The application passes. Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now Earth Tones Native Plant Nursery.
I think the applicant is on board, or sorry, is on. Kyle, are you there? You're on mute.
Okay. There we go. Sorry.
That's it.
Good
No
evening,
problem.
commission members. Kyle Terozzi, soil scientist and wetland ecologist for Earth Tones Native Plant Nursery. And I'm here to discuss work along the Woodridge Lake and Pond, their access road to their beach area, and some restoration of their approach to their dock. I've submitted
Nope, I was
the
gonna,
updated
nope, I
plan.
just decided, let me see, I wanna grab in that plan. Where was it? Application project here. 1 second, photos and plans, I think this is it. I just wanted to kind of bring it so they can see, here we go. That's what I was looking for.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
So this is the areas from the access road, and the whole project here is to reduce any further erosion caused by, this is wind action on both these areas. Bruce, if we could go back and start with the dock area,
Wanna go back to the
pictures
plan?
of the erosion.
Oh, the pictures.
Oh yeah, the pictures from the last meeting of the erosion. That's along the road.
Yeah.
And oh, I think that was it there. There we go. So the proposal is to put rocks on both the left and right side here. And like that, but a much better drawing by our landscape architect was provided. So that's the idea, to put the rocks to reduce that wave action, taking away the soil. 16 inches of soil has been removed in both those spots, left and right. Fortunately, there is still soil in the middle, so it's about 5 yards of material being brought in to restore this. The red circles would be stepstones to get to the dock and reduce the amount of foot traffic damaging turf, so that doesn't expose soils for more erosion. But the rocks on both sides would be added there to, again, stop that wave action from getting right to the soils to take it away.
That's is the dock, is a fixed dock, right? So that's the
Correct.
everyday,
Fixed.
that's the everyday elevation of the dock. It hasn't been pulled in or anything like that.
No, and that rock is very permanent, and I believe it was 7.5 feet wide and 6 feet at the longest point, and like 24 inches on the right hand side.
Now, I just wanted to get a gauge so that the commissioners understand how much, what the elevation of the water technically, where it is at the high point, because I think you said this
Yeah,
is
it's
during the
this
drawdown.
is during drawdown, so it's a little lower, so than what it's going to be. So if you see the rocks on the right, the water is to the edge of those, correct. So it'd be up another 6 to 8 inches. And there's a detail showing a person stepping on that and where the soil, it's 15 feet on this side. The other side is 11 of foot of for rocks to be added. Let's see. Also provided photos of the rocks and the sizes. They're approximately 3 feet long. There's a shovel and I also have one with tape ruler. That's 24 inches. So they're small rocks that I would move with a mini excavator to put in place. Irregular shape so they don't cause a rolling of the water and just allow the water to disperse in many ways when it hits there. I think that's it for this part. If you have any questions on this section of the project.
I just want to clarify something. I heard you say there were about approximately 16 inches was removed. You're talking about natural erosion. There wasn't any work done, was there?
Correct. And that's what we're here to solve. We're
Okay.
here to stop this erosive process. You can see in the middle that the soil is still there, but in the
Yeah.
left and right, and especially the left, because of the wave action coming from the west, it's eroded that much material. So this is proposed to eliminate that erosion. The rock will protect the soils, and then
Okay.
step stones to again keep people from just damaging the turf, so it at least has
Yeah.
some root. So
And this photo was with the water level lowered for the season, right?
correct. When I was called in, yeah, they had already got the drawdown going, so it will be a little higher. But this is right. This will be on not in the water's path that this will be. This is above that. That'll be right on the edge of those rocks, and you see the left-hand side. Um, yeah, Bruce, a little further towards the water looks like the natural. You can almost see that line there looks like more where the water deposited leaves and things. So just staying out of the wetted area, but again, protecting the rock access there.
Okay. Bruce, that sketch that he submitted, are you um do you think that's understandable enough and
I think so. I mean, if you look, he's putting the rocks in here and then he's filling in between. So going
Yeah.
back to this one, exactly, putting some rocks in here, filling in
Yeah.
between here. And what else? And I think he had some plantings. No, yeah, just
Not
filling
on this.
seed and hay. Then there's existing vegetation here. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
and
not adding any on the beach side, so it'll just be the turf. And again, you see that where I'm adding the material, it's just where it eroded.
And are these like approximately like a foot to 2 foot boulders or it looks like?
Correct. They're 2 foot by I think, and if we went,
Okay.
yeah. So you see, those are what I was bringing in. That's 24. That's it. Again, they're natural stones, so they're going to vary a little, but that is the pile from my contractor that
Okay.
and so they're a little taller. So I'll settle them in a little, and then I'll have a little height just to keep people from going over the edges there. So 16 inches the erosion, so it's 2 feet. So I'll sink them in a couple inches. So give them a base there and go from there.
Okay. All right, let's poll the commission.
do you
Rich,
want to
And
say?
then we
Yeah.
have the second part is the along the roadway. So that's the other part of the drawing.
Oh, okay, right, right.
right
Yep.
in here. So,
Yeah, so the buffer in there in some spots are as thin as 6 feet wide. So really is just add rocks to this section and then add some plant material where we can fit it in. And that, Bruce, if you go back to that little pile, okay, this was added by, I was told, non-members, young people from the community took rocks from another area and built this out. So this is the only area that when the water rises would be in the wetted area for about 2 feet. But the proposal is they don't want the people using that as fishing, and it was not member approved. So just pull that back and restore that and plant the edge where it should be. You see the edge where the plants are. That's what we would again plant towards, and I would put rock back there to stop the erosion, but bring that material out of what was dumped
Yeah.
into the pond.
And
And that's
when you say pull back, you're talking like hand excavation or mini excavator?
a mini excavator for setting the rocks and doing this work right
Okay.
there. And the mini excavator for me in this application is a 5-ton rubber tracked excavator.
Okay.
So pretty mini.
Is
And
that
then
all?
this is just one of the
Oh,
openings that's going to get planted. That's about not even 2 feet wide. So we would be adding plant material again to enhance this buffer. And all the plant material that we deal with is straight species native plants. We have the list of the plants on the plan. And then the other part is showing this I measured out from the cul-de-sac. So these are where the existing invasives are, that if we're on the site, we're going to remove the invasives, and where needed, we will put the natives back in there. But it wasn't, I think there was about 15, 16 invasive plants total. And you can see the breakdown of those multiflora rows. And then we're going to put in, these are all shrubs except for the black gum, Nyssa slavatica, which is a wetland tree. And there are a couple on site already, so we were going to add 3 more of those to enhance the 55-foot side there. So that's where the buffer in that section is 6 feet. But you can see how they widen out, goes over to 20 feet in these sides. So it's really just to protect the roadway there from any further erosion. And this is all, again, wind action. This is natural erosion. There's no motorboats on this. So it's just from the wave action.
okay. Anything
And
else?
no, it's a pretty straightforward project. It's not a lot of disturbance. The removal of the invasives, those are the ones that are big enough that I'll remove with the mini excavator, and I will pluck them. So I'll just grab them with the thumb and get them out. As a previous applicant said, the weather is not allowing us to do this for a little while, so we'd wait for also for decent weather to do this.
Okay.
But I don't, this isn't a major job. I'd be there maximum for a week just because of the travel time and, but the plantings and stuff, this will be 2 days on this side, couple days on the other.
All right, very good. Yeah, it looks, I mean, from the erosion, it looks like it's definitely required work and that seems like a decent plan. Let me ask the commission, Rich Berlandi, do you have any questions?
No questions. All set.
Okay. Dave Fox,
No questions.
Robert Eisner,
No questions.
okay, Neil Kelsey,
Nothing for me.
Mark Simpson.
I'm satisfied, no questions.
Okay. I'm satisfied too. Do we need to make determination as whether this is significant?
Nope,
I,
no, that
no,
was already done. Yeah,
Oh,
all we
that's
have
already
to do
done.
is vote, and I just had a couple, the only item for consideration I had was to coordinate the restoration work with town staff.
Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to accept the application with the coordination of town staff included.
So move, Mark.
Okay, motion, and a second, please.
Abel second.
Okay, motion made with stipulations and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, abstain. Motion passes.
And
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, just for clarification, it was a motion to approve, correct?
Was motion to approve with the stipulation that he work in coordination with town staff.
I'm still there. All right, Kyle,
Thank you for your time.
yep, just contact the office discussing
Yeah,
the schedule for the work.
We'll
So
give you
if the date-
48 hours
right.
notice unless you want more.
Nope, that should be good. The earlier you know, the better. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Planners report. Rock Builders LLC.
All right. What I have here is a plan. Some of you were on the commission, some weren't, but back in 2019, the Wetlands Commission approved a plan for a new home at the end of Peggy Lane. I should have probably did that first. Let me show you what we got here. All right, Peggy Lane, Route 6, Bristol Town Line, come down Peggy Lane, down to the very end. All right, these were affordable housings built in conjunction with the town and a developer. So this lot 8612 is right at the end. Let me see if I can get this. Come on. So, all right. So this lot is at the end here. Lot owned by Farmington, and this lot connects out to Route 6. So a large part of this is wetlands. Large part of this is all wetland as well. Connects right into the Westwoods Golf Course property. All right. So they came in, they got approval for a home. All right. As you can see, a large part of the property is wetlands. Okay. So they were able to sneak a home. This is an existing lot of record. So we worked with them a little bit on getting a house in there. So they came in with a 1-car garage. As part of it, they had to make some improvements at the end of the driveway, came up with a clearing limit. And large part of this property was going to be a conservation easement deeded over to the town of Farmington. Sorry, or in favor of the town of Farmington. All right. So that was in 2019. Since that time, there were some conditions of approval. We've been going back and forth with comments addressing those conditions of approval. I've been working with the builder or with the property owner, as well as numerous people that were looking to purchase the property over the years. We met with the developer a week or two ago. They're looking to make some modifications to see if they can make this more marketable. So what they did is they're requesting a little bit of change in the footprint. All right. So I figured I said my thing was I wanted to chat with you with the with the commission to determine whether they feel a modification of the permit is required, or if this is minor enough in nature where staff can just take care of it. So what they've done in red is they've shown what they're looking to do. So existing house remains here, is still here, or sorry, the proposed house is here. The garage will be widened from a single family or from a single car to a double garage here, and then there'll be a bump out off the side. So existing edge of disturbance, existing erosion control, grading, will all remain within the existing confines of the approval. So there has been no change in that. So I think it's more or less for a discussion of the commission of what they feel, of whether they feel this is a minor improvement that can be done with staff, or do they want to see a revised application?
So the red is a bump out to allow for a 2-car garage.
Exactly. I do have in there, we had some pictures. This is more or less what it is proposed, what it's existingly proposed to look like, a single car garage. They'd be looking to bump this out and then make up for that garage space on the side. So I have another picture here that they provided us. Something like this. Double car garage with a little bump out off to the side. It's not as clear. It's not an exact plan.
Yeah, right.
But because they haven't proceeded full with a design yet, because they wanted to get some kind of a consensus from the commission before they revise their architectural drawings on that.
And they're still going ahead with the environmental easement or
Conservation easement, yes.
conservation easement.
Everything else will actually remain in place.
Okay, and so the note says it's going to be 25 feet from the wetlands.
Yep.
That part's already been approved.
Yep. If you look, it was 28.8 feet. All right. To the conservation easement, 25 feet to the wetlands. Here it's going to be proposed 30 feet to the wetlands and the northeast corner of the home. And it was going to be it was actually 30 to 35 feet from the wetlands to here. It's going to drop down to 30 feet.
So that red is not going to be the whole side of that house. It's just where it's shown.
Just where it shows. Yeah. So this is the widening of the garage, and then this is a bump out off to the side.
Right, so
of course, the garage or the driveway will have to get widened a little bit to accept this. So they'll have to do a little loop-de-doo there to widen that out.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. I'll pull the commission. I don't think it's that. I think it's an insignificant change that the staff can handle, but let's see what the commission thinks. Richard?
I would agree that this can be handled at the staff level. I don't think we need to revisit the application.
Okay. Dave Fox?
Yeah, I'd agree also, particularly since the tree line and the clearing is exactly as proposed before, so that's okay.
All right, Robert Eisner?
Yeah, I agree because the area of disturbance is not changing. Obviously, that little bump out's a little closer, but I agree it's a staff level amendment.
Okay. Neil Kelsey?
Yeah, I guess my only hesitation is not knowing what the original application was and how the commission reviewed it. Is any of this kind of backtracking on the approval? I'm not sure how to say that, but you know, were there concerns expressed by the earlier commission in these areas that this adjustment is infringing upon now? Because I think we need to understand and honor that if that's the case.
Based on what I have from the minutes and speaking with Shannon, it doesn't appear that was, I think the discussion was mainly the clearing limits. All right. Because you know that and well, as I said, they're staying within those existing clearing limits. There was a large, as I said, this is a large area of wetlands. So the way that we both look at it, I think it's a staff, I mean, sorry, it's a it's we're not increasing the area of disturbance, so the minor increase in footprint is not much of a concern in terms of what the original approval was.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that bump out, I guess, is where they're gonna have the entranceway now, 'cause I'm guessing, right?
I think so, yeah. I think
Yeah.
that's what falls in there. So
Okay. Mark Simpson?
Yeah, I would say keep with the staff. The disturbance area is minimal, so I see no problems with that.
Okay. Do you want a motion, or is the consensus that we think it's a staff level decision good enough?
consensus is enough. That's fine. I don't need
Okay.
a vote because it's really not an agenda item, just under a planner's report. So,
Okay,
okay.
very good. Uh, Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 4th. The Inland Wetlands Commission.
So move, Mark.
Second, Rich.
Okay, motion is made and second to approve the minutes of December 4th. All those in favor say aye.
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 Nay. Abstain. I abstain.
David will abstain as well.
Okay. All right, motion passes. Any other comments or questions before we adjourn? All
I'm
right,
good. Yeah. Sorry.
somebody, what?
No, I'm good. Sorry. I don't know if you were asking me or the commission, so.
I'm asking everybody. All right, so we will adjourn the inland wetlands at 9:24 and convene the Conservation Commission at the same time.
All right, so as part of that, we do have the Batterson Park project on here, as I discussed. The regulations do require the any significant any significant activity to be forwarded to the Conservation Commission. Now, this is a holdover from the old regs when the commission was separate, when there was the Inland Wetlands Agency and the Conservation Commission. So this is on my to-do list to clean up, and we'll be doing some wetlands. We're doing some regulation modifications, and we could chat about that after the meeting, but or not after the meeting, but at the next meeting or whatever in the future. So technically, this needs to go to the Conservation Commission, so we can do a simple enter all the applicant or so can just enter all the previous submittals and presentation from the Wetlands Commission into this hearing or into this meeting as well. So to make that part of the record, then the commission can review and discuss if they have any additional items to address under the Conservation Commission. So the Conservation Commission, as you know, is to review open space to make sure land is being used as in its natural state as much as possible and in conformance with our plan of development. So does that kind of give you a little summary?
So do we make a motion that but I mean, that we think there's no conservation issues?
Exactly. So I mean, like I said, we could make the applicant is on. So if there's any, I mean, we could simply make a note that we're going to how do we word it, that we're going to move all of the presentation material and submittals from the wetland hearing and make that part of the record of this meeting of the Conservation commission meeting. And if there's anything additional that we want to discuss, and as Robert was saying, maybe, these are usually the times we discuss the integrated pest management system and things like that. But it's just, again, it is a formal step that we need to take as part of the regulations. So hopefully we'll get this cleaned up soon.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So I guess I'll open it up. I'll start with Robert, and since she already has one suggestion.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
Mr. Chair, I was going to jump right to noting that the Conservation Commission has reviewed the record created for the development of Batterson Park at 95 Batterson Park Road. Our findings are that the proposed development of the park is consistent with the town's plan of conservation and development and the environmental regulations, including inland wetland regulations, and we recommend um, approval with the conditions that the restoration activities be overseen by the project environmental Ethan or other similarly qualified environmental professional, that the project include an integrated pest management program for all vegetated areas, and that the project include a trash removal and litter maintenance program.
I like that.
That's perfect.
All right. And that is a motion.
Mhm.
Okay. Motion been made. Do I have a second for that motion?
Rich,
And before a
I'll
second,
second.
and that the applicant address all staff comments.
Yes. Okay, so the motion been made and seconded by Rich. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Very good. So is that what you're looking for, Bruce?
I couldn't have said it better than my,
I-
I couldn't
you
even
said
written that better.
Robert said it far better than I would have. I'll tell you that much.
I was following your leads, guys. That's it.
Okay. So we can move on to approval of the minutes. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of December 4th for the Conservation Commission.
So moved.
Been moved in a second, please.
Second by Eisner.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? I will abstain.
Dave will abstain.
Okay. And that's it. Under the planner's report, I do have one question.
Mhm.
On the rails to trails, have they started the excavation on that behind near the Little League fields?
Excavation of lowering the trail.
Lowering the
That point, no. As far as I
No.
know, they haven't. Why? Have you seen something?
No, I haven't seen.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
look every time I go by, and with that area cleared out, you have a pretty good view there.
Yeah, no, it is a new property owner, so we have not met with them at this point, and there's been no
Okay.
plans for anything to get started on there. So,
Yeah, the former property owner passed away unexpectedly, correct?
yes, sir.
So are
So,
you saying the person who was going to build the apartment side has now purchased that property and has it under his ownership now?
no, it's technically under two ownerships. I'll call it the McCallum building is technically one side, and then the undeveloped side or the undeveloped side is owned by a second person. Those people were working in conjunction throughout the entire process, had the agreements down, and we're going to work in conjunction to have the work done. Unfortunately, both owners have since passed away. The McCallum building property is sold. The one next door is on the market. So we have been getting some calls from people on that as well. So it would take, technically, it's gonna take these two new owners to get together, work together, just like the other owners were, and coordinate to have the work done. If they
So
do
you
so.
tell me not just one person, one of the owners died, not with the Midas side, the Midas Auto was the other side, that person also, that
Yes,
person died also?
exactly, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they have both since passed away. Um, I don't know if I can get it in here, if it even pops up or not. Yeah, it is. So technically, this is owned by one entity here, and then this is owned by a second entity here. So
I guess don't buy that property.
well,
The wetlands permits have an expiration date?
yes, but now they're, what are they, 11 years, I think, based on the
Oh,
approval?
okay.
Oh, yeah, so they got a while. So it's just gonna be getting two people to work together again is gonna be the difficult part, because these two people kind of started this project from the beginning in the whole development process of it. So worked for many years, as you guys are aware, throughout the whole process. So just getting two new people to work together to develop this will be the difficult part.
And I'm still thinking of finding a way to stop it. I don't think they should lower that, but whatever.
Understood.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. I thought you meant stop the whole project. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't, not the way they were planning. It was too steep and too dramatic.
It's going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank you. We'll adjourn at 9:33.